panel, the question posed was, what is a vision for the future of collective awareness and action looking like? And so instead of looking into the bits and pieces that flow into the wire, I figured I'd take the discussion into a slightly different direction and actually start by looking at some of the visions that all of this started out with. Many of you will know of J.C.R. Licklider. He is a cognitive scientist in the 1950s and 60s who is also one of the grandfathers of what we know today as the internet and the web. And one of his seminal papers was The Man-Machine Symbiosis, published in 1960. In that paper, Licklider paints a vision of the human capacity for action, for cognition, for thinking, being hugely improved by man being able to outsource the boring and the tedious to the computer. The example he takes is that in his research, 80% of the time is spent clerically, and that wouldn't it be wonderful if computers could take that over, and wouldn't networked computers be wonderful tools to improve the productivity of the human mind? And some of that thinking is at the very root of what we know today as the web and the internet. And the discussion goes onto an entirely different level in the 1990s with some philosophical publications that I want to pick up on. Clark and Chalmers in 1998 asked the question, what is the limit of the mind? Is the mind limited to that bone I carry around as my head, or does it perhaps include the notebook that I use as a replacement and an extension of my memory? Is it my mind getting poor at focusing when I multitask and interact with machines all the time, or is it that part of my environment and part of the tools I use functionally become part of my mind? Isn't technology part of a change to our concept of what the human mind is? And in 2008, Harry Halpin takes that argument one step further. He looks at social networks. He looks at Wikipedia and he says, wait a second, we are building shared cognitive state. Now, if we have many minds on the planet that share intimately thought processes and that share intimately the representations of reality that they work with, then do we not need to think of that what emerges with the web, with the social web, with collaboration, as a collective intelligence? To take Tim Berners-Lee's words, the web as humanity connected. Now, the examples that you typically talk about in these sorts of conversations are examples of voluntary and constructive collaboration. Good faith collaboration is a characterization of the model that Wikipedia works with. And a lot of that also resonates in the talks that we hear here today. Another example of where that sort of collaboration emerges are, again, the social media services. Take things that are not entirely real time, but for many practical purposes work as though they were. Take Twitter overtaking the waves of an earthquake. This is an XKCD that came out a year ago, and one of the funny observations during the East Coast earthquake 2 months ago was actually folk further up north heard about it on Twitter, and then it started to rumble. There is real-time collaboration, real-time awareness and cognition going on in a way that was previously not possible. There is a dark side, though, and there is a place where, well, not a dark side, sorry, that's said too much. There is a place where Licklider's vision flips a little bit. In Licklider's vision, and in the vision that we talk about here, the human is in charge and the machine helps. But as we talk about crowdsourcing, as we talk about services like the Mechanical Turk, we actually find that the symbiosis model cuts both ways. The machine isn't able to do many things, and so we build systems in which the machine outsources to the human. The Rosetta Stone that drives the best machine translation services today is human translation. Machine translation services build on data mining human translation, human text. We're moving away in that field from trying to understand and analyze language. We're moving to trying to understand and analyze the relationship between texts that humans have translated. We have tools for collaborative action and awareness right now. Many of you will look at this picture with a lot more red on it in the morning as you perhaps try to figure out your commute. And the green and red lines here are based on position data from mobile phones that people carry in their pocket. Another example, search activity on the web. We all search for things that concern our everyday life. And so when the sniffles come, we might start searching for our symptoms. Turns out you can use search logs as a pretty reliable indicator for epidemiology. And you can find out about the flu emerging in a place and breaking out in a place faster by analyzing search logs than you can find out about it through the traditional health channels. Because people will search for this stuff before they see the doctor, and you have those data much faster. So we build systems collectively that enable us to observe our behavior, to build cognition based on our behavior, and we start thinking about them in terms of this shared mind. But if you look at how those systems work, the control often is in a central place. We're often talking about systems that are, if I wanted to take this to the extreme, built on industrialized mass observation, industrialized data processing. And we can comfort ourselves by saying those services are anonymizing data. For the traffic service, I don't need to track the individual. For the search service, I don't necessarily need to track the individual. I'm interested in the large amounts of data. But that doesn't always need to be so. Think about the perspectives about smart meters. Think about the perspectives of smart health. We may very well be on the border where we are no longer just looking at the mass, but where we are tracking the individual. Think about online behavioral advertising. Individualized, tailored information and business offers based on ubiquitous surveillance, creeping out many policymakers, and for good reasons, and leading to a very fascinating privacy conversation. But what if that sort of pattern might actually serve to identify diseases? What if that sort of pattern might serve to identify cures? We lack the tools today to have the conversation about how we mix big data, the vision of a collective mind and the vision of collective awareness and action, personal autonomy and privacy. We talk about privacy on an individual level very often. We talk about it in terms of anonymization, of anonymized data. We don't trade off. We lack the terms. We lack the tools. And so the call for action from this presentation is, these are incredibly powerful services. These are incredibly powerful innovations. We must use them for the good, and we must find ways to talk about the impact that they have on the individual. And we must also find ways to talk about how the many can innovate and how the many can build those tools. If I need a global surveillance machine to offer a service, then, or to build an innovation, then there are relatively few who can build it. So think about that, and I'll leave it at this. I think I'm below 8 minutes.
Thank you very much. Very good. So after all this